Whoops, I did not mute that as much as I thought I did. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live stream where pretty exciting stuff. Just 15 or 20 minutes ago or so, there was a tweet from the official Sublime HQ Twitter with a Vimeo link to a Sublime Text 4 preview video, which is some pretty exciting news. I have a feeling that means that there is potentially some chance that the Sublime Text 4 builds that we've been enjoying in the Discord for the last little while may soon be made public. So that's some pretty exciting business. And I'm also noticing in my desktop view that this build is still exhibiting that bug. I don't think it clearly hasn't been fixed yet, where the title of the window is the title of the last tab. But let me just go ahead and clear that out for later. But hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. This is indeed some exciting stuff. For those that may be watching the streams and don't know, hello, Ayush. Welcome to the stream. Sublime Text 4 is something we've been using for the better part of a year and a couple of months in live streams here and on the alternate channel. Has been in discrete beta and the Sublime Text Discord for people that are licensed users, because it is a development build. And a tweet came out just 20 minutes ago that makes it seem like they're almost ready to release it to a public thing. In fact, we could possibly even jump on in and check into that. So let us do that. Let me just grab this window and throw it up like so, and transition over. So here we have the tweet. We've been hard at work on the next version of Sublime Text. Here's a little preview while we add the finishing touches. Now, we know this has been available in the Discord for a little while now, but the fact that they're actually saying something publicly for the first time means that we've finally reached the state where we're probably just polishing things, if I had to guess. So that is some exciting stuff. And I think we may want to just give this bad boy a watch. Maybe we could even go through some of these things here. I don't know. How's your day been so far, Ayush? It's early morning for you, isn't it? Well, maybe we don't want to do that because it'll be cut off. The different versions of Sublime as have gone. Multi-selecting tabs, very cool stuff. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the stream. We're just discussing how Sublime Text 4 has been publicly acknowledged by the developers for the first time in the year and a bit that things have been going on. So this stuff is probably not new to anybody that's been watching streams here on the channel for the last little while, or who hangs out in the Discord. But this means that we are awful close to actually seeing something. My day, Ayush, has been going not too badly. I mean, work being what it is, lots of meetings. However, tomorrow's going to be my last day before I take a few days of vacation, and then I'll be off until this day next week. So, tomorrow next week. So, yeah, tomorrow's the last day, week off. That's how we do. So that's going to be fun. So I wasn't entirely sure what we might talk about in this stream, but perhaps we should talk about Sublime 4 and what people might think of. What's their favorite part of this build? Is it any of the things that have been mentioned here in the teaser video that Sublime HQ has dropped? Is it anything that you've seen in the videos on the channel thus far, such as the new theme support, the ability to see I'll add a little thing over there. The ability to easily see, come on, buddy. The focused view. This has been a real game changer for a lot of the stuff that I have been doing lately, which is interesting because it's been something that's been available sort of in a package inactive panes, I think it's called, or inactive files, something that one of the members of the Discord Fall was working on, which up to now, Hacky Sack, welcome to the stream. What did you get to eat? Was it pizza? Let us know if it's pizza. That would be super exciting. Also, as far as I can tell, latency today should be down to a couple of seconds between when something appears in the chat, or at least between what I say something and when you see it. YouTube chat sometimes seems to be a little bit slow. Hello, Ben. I'm not sure how the one above me is going to react to this sort of thing. Seems to be perhaps a little bit slower now than it was before. But hey. We were just discussing very briefly this tweet that you dropped about Sublime Text 4 being perhaps publicly announced. That is some cool stuff. I mean, I guess I'm saying perhaps publicly announced, but perhaps in as much as this tweet is totally public, has only been around for a few minutes and has already garnered 113 likes and 24 retweets. Let the hype train commence. It's going to be exciting to share all of the new stuff with people that are perhaps just discovering this for the first time. How's your day been so far, Ben? I just mentioned how I'm looking forward to some vacation time that I have. Friday is going to be a day that's off because it's Good Friday, and we're taking Thursday off, and we're taking Monday and Tuesday off too, because you need to buffer your vacation time to make sure you have some time to recover from it. Chef Boyardee lasagna, I have not had that for a while, but let the hype train commence. Did that thing just pop up there? Has that always been there? Also, should point out this. Indeed. Hello, Will. Something, by the way, that I set up was mentioned in last week's stream. The ability to track key bindings for when we type stuff. Totally set it up. Ironically enough, we found like screen key, and I'm like, oh, this has got some libraries I haven't installed yet. I don't want to get into installing this. But it turns out that I had actually installed a previous version of screen key at some point in the past. So I had everything that I needed for that thing. So whoop. Now that the beta is not so discreet, do you have a hard and fast time for when it's going to drop? It makes me laugh every time somebody says something like that. It also kind of makes me chuckle when people in the forum post things like, oh, this doesn't work the way that I want. I'm going to go try Atom, or I'm going to go try Visual Studio Code. Like, absolutely, you should always use the tool that is going to work best for you, right? That's something that we like to say around here. So this is some exciting news. Oh, I don't know that it's interesting to see the mouse move that frequently. We'll just do that. But the number of people quoting this and liking it. Now, the thing that makes me laugh about this, or is kind of delightful, is all of the posts that we've been seeing in the forum or in the issue tracker saying that no, there hasn't been a publicly released build for a while. Project is dead. There you go. Yeah, I mean, this reminds me, I don't know that I ever set this up. No. But on Twitch, on Twitch you get channel points for people watching your streams, and you can use those to redeem things. One of the things you can do with that is community challenge. I'm going to set up a community challenge to inspire me, such as it is, to use Visual Studio Code for a couple of streams. So I'm guessing I'm not going to get a heck of a lot done with that. But whoosh. 9 quote tweets, 24 retweets. This is some cool stuff. Never. I may have mentioned at one point that I have on my Windows machine, I use Commander, And in order to make it easier to navigate to the part of the drive where I keep all of my work projects, I have an alias set up inside of Commander that is code that switches me to the appropriate directory automatically, so that I can, no matter when I create a terminal, I can just jump there. And one time I typed it in the command prompt instead of in Commander, and it didn't go anywhere, and I was confused by that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, right. And then like suddenly Visual Studio Code popped up like 5 seconds later. I have not. Does it have Git support built in the way that Commander does? Which is primarily the reason that I set that up. Just to basically for the same sort of fancy Git prompt stuff that I get out of the Git prompt, I guess. Do I have an example of that here? This stuff here. I know you can do that in PowerShell. There was like something called Fancy Git or something, but primarily I use Commander because it sets that into the prompt automatically. And I guess it has that little lambda character, makes things a little bit shorter, but I'm not, like I said, I'm sort of thrown by the whole tweet thing going on. I would like to know, for people that are watching, what is your killer feature for Sublime Text 4 if you've played with it yet? And if you haven't, why the heck not? I'm going to guess that for Will, it's split between a fancy new theme that he worked so hard on and the awesome multi-tab select stuff, which I teased in Monday's video. Is the new Windows terminal thing actually out of its beta period? Is it actually like available in the store? I do use Windows for my work development, so, and you know, I have a work laptop or a home laptop that I use to play games and watch Twitch streams. That's Windows as well. But yeah, the last time I actually heard anybody talk about the Windows terminal was when they were discussing how new and exciting it was. Ow. What we got here? Oh, there you go. I may have to check into that just to see what the hubbub is about. Do I have? I don't. I can never remember. One of the things that has been on my list for things to do is get more comfortable with using these keys to select tabs. Yeah, I really love that as well, especially since it's like a temporary split in the window. Initially, in the very first builds, it kind of confused me because I'm used to having a multi-split like that, and then going something like that made this one a little bit smaller. It wasn't, that was before it was more visually distinct that the tabs are tied together in the way that they are. And before this super awesome inactive pane dimming thing as well. I think my issue is that my finger memory for doing stuff with Control K and such I have a finger memory for doing stuff like this to use origami to do things. And as a result, it's kind of messing with my head to do stuff with those keys. Wow is offensive. Built-in JavaScript and TypeScript is a nice touch. Indeed. Yeah, I don't know that I really have a ton of... Let me know how annoying this gets over time. But this is stuff... And there's no oops, that's not what I meant to do. Pardon me. The type of these things like this, super cool. You use F12 for your terminal? Ow. New autocomplete. Ah, yeah. You know, and that's one of the things I want to create a video about is all of the awesome new stuff that has come out of the new autocomplete stuff. And it occurs to me, let me fiddle this setting here for a second, that there's a thing in here that says show mouse. There we go. So we just see it for keys. Uh-oh, is it just going to be stuck there forever now? Maybe it'll go away now. I noticed this was a bit of an issue when I was playing with it earlier. And now it decides that it needs to keep that forever and never ever go away because I told it didn't want it. I don't want it to display mouse stuff. What was I saying there? Autocomplete, whoops, is one of those things that I'm so used to using it. And the new stuff seems to be like so seamless for how it works with the way that I work with the autocomplete that it can be a little bit tricky to try to pick out what's new and what's not. Can you go away now, dude? Notice that persistent window is in fact not checked here. Go away. Maybe we have to do it the hard way. Yeah, I only tested this briefly before the stream started. We may be stuck knowing about that key forever now. Good job, screen keys. Good job. All right, I'll turn it back on if that'll make you happy. That reminds me, one of the things that was... Okay, I'm going to have to quit you, am I? I'll do that for the time being, and then we can restart it in just a second. When we watch the video, I really enjoy the this part of this as well, watching that go. But is tab multi-select, is this first in the video because that's your favorite? Love the symbol details things, and this doesn't even show how you can like hover over to see things, but it's nice to know where exactly those things are coming from. Oh yeah, and the thing that I like about this is the API changes that allow events. That bit there with the definition pop-up underneath, is that something that's built in, or was that an example of a custom plugin to show how that works? Because I don't remember ever seeing that, but perhaps I'm not using the right kinds of languages. But yeah, this is like some cool stuff. See if my tea is super hot. There. Oh, I should have changed the setting and then restarted it. That's what I should have done. Shoot. Does it actually? It does that, and I don't. Oh, hang on a second here. Let's turn off that. Turn off that. We'll quit this and then restart it. See if it stops doing that. Alrighty. Maybe that'll go away. Only possible because of Sublime 4? Technically, yes, because one of the things that are available now are events that tell you when tabs are moved out of Windows or into Windows. So there's that. Which reminds me that one of the things that we worked on in one of the streams actually takes advantage of that. But yeah, see, one of the first things that I thought of was people have been asking for a long time about wanting key bindings that are project specific, right? And we actually have a way to do that now, such as it is because of the new API. Because one of the things that you can listen for is when a project is loaded and when a project is about to be closed. So this very simple package, which is available on one of the GitHub repositories, detects when a project loads, checks to see, such as here, if it has any keys, and automatically creates a key binding file that uses the keys that you have in here, optionally with platform, because keys in general can be made platform specific, but project files are normally used across everything. And it automatically adds in a context that makes it only apply in Windows where this specific project file is loaded. And then when you close the project, it deletes the file. So that's an example of something like that. And yeah, there's a few other cool things in there. Things that are only possible, such as it is, would be, say, not the fact that you can do this per se, but the visual style of being able to see the different commands and the new type information, being able to tell you that that's a window command, that one's a text command, and this automatically fires it up. That's something that would have been possible otherwise, but it's a lot nicer for a user experience reason to be able to know what kind of command that you're dealing with there. I think there's some other changes there too. I don't remember. It wasn't possible before to have a tip to the right-hand side, was it? It was just multiple, one or more lines of things per quick panel entry. And the same can also be said for enhanced list input handler support as well, though I don't know offhand if there's anything that does that. Oh, actually, another thing that we worked on, I think, in a stream is that. So this one isn't using any sort of, this is actually an input handler for this, which I created because I sometimes, every now and then you want to look in the actual plugin definition, but list input handlers have the same ability to have multiple lines of things in here as well. And then, of course, that just opens up the file and makes it read-only so you don't accidentally modify it and screw up the plugin system at a future point in time. But in what situation does the... Don't have any examples of that in there, do I? I don't think that I do. Let's jump over to here. So, yeah, this is the thing that I always forget, but it was very recently added. Clearly, this button does that for you if you wanted to do things that way. But also, now that commands can determine if modifier keys were held, you can actually do it by control clicking on links as well to make that a little bit faster. And I'm imagining that there's a, let's see, is it 12 to go to definition? Or control F12? I don't tend to use the keyboard for that particular thing. Let's see, go to definition, it should be F12. Go to reference. That's how I was thinking, shift F12 to see that. So I should be able to control shift F12 to do that. That is super cool as well. What do you think of the thing there? Does that help while we're fiddling around with stuff in here to be able to see what keys are being pressed? With the proviso that this is, of course, Linux, and those keys might be slightly different if you're on OS X or Mac OS, now I guess it's called. For some reason, they seem to stay there forever now and not go away after a period of time for reasons that are completely unknown to me, because that is totally not an option that is turned on right now. But, perhaps it's playing up because OBS is running. Most of the testing I did prior to this, OBS was not a thing that was going on. People are also kind of excited about the shirt that I'm I think that one of those things I mentioned in a previous video, I just noticed I got another message about it. Someone was mentioning how they love the shirt that I wear when I create videos, and then when they found out that I hand printed that, or well, not hand printed, I custom printed it by stealing the graphic off of the Sublime webpage and shipping it to someone and giving them money, and then a shirt arrived in the mail. That was even more impressive. Still hoping that there's to be some official merchandise coming. Related to new APIs in Sublime 4. Oh, shoot. I got to clean up my my user directory because I totally have something in there that I do not need to have for that thing. And Oh, the two most common questions that I get in direct messages and Twitter and whatnot is, how do I make myself appear in a Sublime window like this? I'd love to stream my video directly in, and where can I buy one of those t-shirts? And I have to say, I'm sorry to say that this is a cheap trick. I just have an image of the window with the hole cut in it, and I put it on top, and I made the shirt myself. Well, regarding questions about myself, anyway. Let's fix that. Main menu user. I'm imagining that this was related to something somebody was asking about, wanting to have a menu item appear after a particular other menu item. And without having the appropriate IDs in there, that is just not going to work the way that one might like. But yeah, this is... Oh yeah, and I'm wearing the tea time shirt in reference to the fact that I got a tea shipment the other day. So now do I not only have coffee, coffee to caffeinate myself, I also have tea as well. Absolutely, sir. You can ask any question you like. Also, I quadruple checked that links are allowed, so you can drop anything in here, and if it doesn't if it hides it for some reason and doesn't say, just let me know. You can share it with me in the Discord, and I will bring it in. I'm not entirely sure. There's only, I mean, YouTube is sort of unfortunate in its settings that it has multiple places where settings can be set, and I've checked all of them. There's only one of them that seems to say that whether or not links should be blocked, and that is turned off. So should work, but just in case it doesn't, we'll just double check. Oh, oops, pardon me. Click that. There seems to be action happening in the Discord. Here we go. Is there a better way of doing this? Okay, let me see. I'm going to click this, and we'll bring it over. Well, I said we'll bring it over. Thank you. Here, like so. And then I got to close this, otherwise I can't see the chat. It posted it? I don't see a link in the chat, but weird. There's a difference between live chat and top chat. Maybe that's why I wasn't seeing things before. Yeah, it absolutely is. I don't know why. Like, I'm going to presume that as the owner and broadcaster on the channel, I should be I should be a moderator in here, but perhaps I'm not. Oh, come on. You're going to blind me here, dude. Hang on a second. Let's try something. Let's see if do I have to make myself a moderator in my own channel to have moderator powers? Yeah, the version of the chat that appears up there is probably vastly out of sync with that one, for reasons I don't understand, because they're both the exact same web page. But I think there's something funky about how it does its thing. Let's do this so that we can sort of see that a little bit better. I'll slide that like so. Let's see. So basically, let's see, when you run this, you ask an input panel, and when it's done, you call insert text, and insert text There is, in fact, an easier way to do that. Yes, use the append command instead of the insert command. So, whoosh, I got a lot of stuff in here. Hang on, let's clear that console. And we may need to temporarily disable that thing because it's going to get in the way of stuff. Okay, I think that should stop it from doing stuff. Oh, apparently I have command logging turned on. That's unfortunate. Sublime.log commands. Let's turn that off. If we were to view run command insert, and the arguments for that were something that I could actually type, but apparently I can't type tonight. Characters, and you did 1, 2, let's see. Then, what's the magic of something like this? Append will indeed stick it to the end, but if you have, are you trying to insert it directly into a specific spot? Hang on. I lost the page. I got too much stuff here. Yeah, I guess insert puts it directly at the current locale. Does append or does insert take an argument to tell it not to do that? I don't think so. But the magic of append is that when it sticks text in, it doesn't follow the indent rules. So that may be the way to do that. That's a pretty handy way to do that. Well, to override it on the view and then just erase it so you don't have to do anything specific about it. Although if auto indent was already turned off in a view specific setting, that would clobber that out, which may or may not be an issue. So you might want to capture the value of it and then put it back. You know, I wonder, just based on your comment that you're trying to recreate :R from Vim, because I'm pretty sure I've helped somebody else do something similar to that in the past. But I don't think I have that plugin available. I think, man, that must be about a couple of years ago now. But somebody that was, back when I first started the YouTube channel, before the videos actually started going live all the time, which would have been in April of 2018, I guess, there was somebody that was basically trying to replicate the buffer panel in VI in a panel at the bottom of the window, or in Vim at the bottom of the panel. And I think that was one of the things that he was trying to do. Oh, absolutely. You know, like doing stuff just to test and play with it is 100% the way you want to go for a lot of this stuff. That's a good way to figure how things work in the API and stuff. Trying to think if there's another another way to do a thing like that. This is nicely compact as well as, you know, the way that it's implemented in here. But no, nothing jumps to mind. I know I have this vague recollection in the back of my head that arguments to commands changed, but I think what changed for append was the ability to force it to append content into a buffer even if it was marked as read only, so that when you do stuff like say for example hyperhelp, which makes the buffer read only, it makes operations like changing contents of things a lot easier to tack on, or build systems that appear, you know, in the build panel at the bottom of the window. Is there a way to move on done outside of run? You don't need the edit here. The insert text could be, yeah, let's copy this. Whoops, got too many windows. Close that, go to this one. For Python, nothing in here uses the edit, right? So, yeah, you could easily swap this to be down here and, you know, work this out as appropriate, like f.read. Then you don't need that one at all. And then this one can be self.insert text, perhaps. Is there a way to access the current edit object? Yeah, do something inside of run. Outside of that, you can't access it because it doesn't exist. So you can't cache the edit object that your run method got and then use it again later. It's only valid for the lifetime of this method. Once this method returns, it is kaputski, which is only 99.999% accurate, but that way leaves madness. So don't do anything that is technically possible to do because you shouldn't do it, which is why I'm not even going to tell you that it's technically sort of possible. Some handlers can't have access until you... Well, sometimes what you have to do for something like this... oh, yay, Nightbot works here too. Cool. Is have a second command that the first one runs as a part of the callback. Hello, Robert. Welcome to the stream. There is, I think, a Flutter package. Let's see. If we did install package, Flutter is Dart, right? Let's just download this big old list of repositories. How's your day going so far, Robert? Welcome to the stream. This is a big list of repositories, or something's going on there. That is probably not what we want, but I think the LSP Dart package has support for that. Is there something special about it? Dart's not one of the languages that I use, but if there's a server that supports Dart and Flutter is just a library for it, doesn't that mean that you could technically configure it to know about it? That part is a little bit past my pay grade. Dart and is one of the languages that I don't use a lot, and the other one is the one that Ben keeps telling me that I should be doing something with, unless that's also Dart too, and I'm thinking of something different. I can't remember now. Or Go or Ruby. Those are all languages that are not ones that I know. I have tried a few times to learn Ruby, but as soon as my brain sees Ruby syntax, it turns around and goes the other way. So I've had a hard time historically trying to focus in on something like that. But to your question there, Mike, some handlers can't have access until you define the callback to run. So yeah, if you ever need an edit object to do something, you have to do it inside of the run of a text command, and that might mean that you need to have a separate command set aside just to be able to do that. Oh, well, I hear good things about Ruby. I mean, not syntax-wise, but if you followed me for any appreciable length of time, you know that I am sort of a long-time hobby game dev type person, and one of the things that I've played with for a while is something called RPG Maker, and a couple of versions of that are basically super heavily scripted. The RPG engine is written in Ruby. So out of the box, you get something that could create you a classic Final Fantasy or a top-down JRPG type game. But if you wanted to get your hands dirty with Ruby code, you could put anything you like in there. It's basically like a framework for drawing things. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into that, but no matter how much I looked at it, my brain was like, nope, don't like it, too weird. Hello, Ashwin, welcome to the stream. How's your day going? We We've been talking about various plugin related topics and such. Many people told me that I'm already behind if using Sublime than VS Code. Yeah, well, I mean, we may be in the technical minority for that, but LSP really brings a lot to the table in regards to adding an IDE-like experience for a lot of things. Yeah, I know. I was surprised that they used Ruby too. I think because this is just a guess on my part, that the developers of it's like a Japanese product, and Ruby is of Japanese design, I think. So I had this vague recollection that there was something related to that in there, but I have mentioned in the past as well that one of the things I looked at in Ruby, and I think, I have a bunch of O'Reilly pocket guides on the shelf of nerd books somewhere. I think they're hidden behind all of the fake books for the piano behind me. One of them had like a very simple program for solving a Sudoku that looked incredibly beautiful as far as the algorithm concerned, and the way that it was recursive looked quite nice and small and compact, but not understanding the syntax fully made it a little trickier to understand. So yeah, I'm guessing that's why they used that and not Lua, but those people are just jealous. I have been gathering people that I follow on Twitch, because I'm streaming there a couple of days a week as a software developer, and most of the people that I know on Twitch up to now are artists of some sort, because that's sort of what got me into Twitch in the first place, watching friends do glass sculpture, and then they introduced us to people doing this kind of art, and so then they were introduced to digital art and so on. So a lot of my followers are art people, but I've been trying to find more software development people on Twitch. There's a lot of cool people there. I've made a lot of friends in the last couple of weeks, and I'm the only one that's using Sublime Text. Prolog. That is also a language that I have not used, although I can say that I know COBOL. Or I did, anyway. It's been a long time since I used it. Is Prolog... Oh, yeah, I think... You've talked about Prolog in the past in the Discord, haven't you? Indeed. I remember looking it up a little bit. I think you were talking about it in relation to some conversation, not directly just about the language itself. It sort of came up as a part of a conversation. But yeah, I remember looking at it in the Wikipedia. Have you heard of a language called boop boop boo? Hang on, I've got it here. Mumps. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm guessing that tweet means that we're willing to say some stuff. A coworker shared with me today this, which I gather is from the Wikipedia page for the language mumps. Reserved words, none. Since mumps interpret source code by context, there's no need for reserved words. You may use the names of language commands as variables, so the following is perfectly legal mumps code. And then follows this. And the world is like confused and disoriented. But then he followed it up with this one. Mumps can be made more obfuscated by using the contracted operator syntax as shown in this terse example derived from the example above. This sort of is reminiscent of what I think of when I think of using Ruby for stuff. There's just a lot of commies and weird stuff. Yeah, I know, right? We were having a discussion about how at work we're doing a big migration of software that's written primarily in Fortran on VMS to applications that are written in TypeScript and Node.js. Let's click the link. Yes, that is totally cool. And how there's probably, holy crap, I'm going to click this button first. There's probably not a ton of overlap in the general case for people that have skills with Fortran and JavaScript and TypeScript, because they're having like real problems coming to terms with async is just absolutely killing their brains with the idea of having to get callbacks and promises to know when something is going to happen, because that's not what they're used to. And then my coworker found this while he was looking for perhaps more suitable languages. But if we have this, Ben provided a link to the Solving Sudoku with Prolog. And this is the entirety of the whole solution. I assume you're a Prolog developer at some level, Ben? I mean, I've heard you talk about it in the past, but... Yeah, and Smalltalk, you know, I think I've mentioned in a few streams, is definitely one of those languages that I was enamored with for quite some time, which is why I have the purple book over on the shelf there, and why I like Objective-C. The idea that, you know, even the number of reserved words is quite small. Even conditional statements are actually sort of like function calls after a fashion, with blocks that take arguments. Yeah, that is it's some neat stuff. I was really enamored with that particular syntax of things. This is definitely Scryer Prolog. Boop. Oh. Does this have an anim? No, it doesn't have an animated thing. All it does is describe the rules of Prolog, what a board looks like, the number that needs to be unique. That's this sort of thing like absolutely fascinates me. Although, I don't know, it's something that's sort of beyond at some level the stuff that I'm used to doing. Definitely belies some study, but I love the idea as a concept of working something that way. This is, I think, a lot shorter than the Ruby one as well, which I'm pretty sure was doing recursive checks of the board. It may or may not have been brute forcing it, since there's only so many combinations there. But is there a syntax for Prolog that's built into Sublime? No. Oh. Add that one in. Yeah, I'm more of an imperative guy. Rust. That's the language you're always trying to get me to use. There we go. I had to stop and think about it for a second. Rust, Dart, Go, Prolog. 4 languages that I don't use. Ruby as well, if I haven't already said that one. But Haskell as well. I'm trying to think. There was something else. I can't remember. Oh, dang it. Something that Hacks. Is Hacks a language? Am I remembering that correctly? But I know that I've heard a lot of stuff about Haskell as well. SQL, I know enough SQL to be dangerous. But you're not a language, hacky sack? You could be. If you were a language, I would describe you as Python because you seem to play in it so much. Are you a software developer by trade hacky sack? I can't remember. If you took official training such as it is, or if you are sort of self-taught in the stuff that you know. In essence of functional, you're describing a solution. In logic program, you're describing the problem. Ooh, on the forum, you say. I'm clicking. I'm reloading. Sublime Text 4 coming soon. I'm clicking like. I'm number 2 on like. For those that are not on the forum, get thee there, because life is going to get real interesting real fast. I'm going to click this. There's only 2 people that have liked it so far. We need more likes on this thing. Self-taught, not too shabby. And you're doing competitive programming stuff. Well, I'm a self-taught guy as well. I mean, I did go to university for computer systems technology, where I learned a bunch of stuff as well. But by that point, I already had some number of years, that's more than I can remember now, in the self-taught area, learning languages like C and Pascal. I did know C++, at least as it existed in the early 90s, which may be a little bit of a different beast from now. Hacker News, you're on the board now. But yeah, I would echo what Hacky Sack is saying there. You need to. I found that the best way to learn something is there's a couple of different ways people learn, right? Sometimes people learn best by reading something, and sometimes people learn best by doing a thing. I like to read something and then do and practice and get that under my belt. So I would say find something that interests you, and something small. Start with a small project. Decide on a language that you want to learn. Maybe there's some quick tutorials just to give you the syntax, but start small. Don't try to build like this. This is the classic thing in people that want to be game developers, for example, whether they know software development already or not, or you just decide I'm going to make a game. One of the biggest mistakes people have in that arena is coming up with an initial topic that is, or an initial game idea that's too big, like saying I'm going to be a game developer, I'm going to make Doom, when you don't have any experience with anything. That's not going to go well for you because it's too complicated and you don't have those skills, and that's just going to discourage you from wanting to learn anything. So you want to start with things and just constantly be exploring and practicing. Don't be afraid to start small and build on as you go. But what he said there, don't let others tell you what to do. If you try to follow a prescribed curriculum of some sort, I mean, I guess this applies to college as well, but you're paying for that one, and you're not interested in what it is that you're learning, if it's not driving you to learn more and investigate more and dig into what you're learning, then the impetus isn't there. So you definitely want to make sure that you're focusing in on things that are interesting to you, that are going to guide you to what you want to do, and not be influenced too much by people saying, you're using JavaScript, you should be creating applications in React versus something else. If you don't know enough to know why someone's recommending one thing over another, do research on things as well. Indeed. Do stuff, break stuff, fix stuff, make more stuff. Reinvent the wheel. This is one of those things I've mentioned in a couple of my streams, but Python is a language that I knew existed. I played with it very briefly years and years and years ago. For whatever reason, it never really caught on with me. I'm not sure why that might be. But what got me into using Python as a language is Sublime. I started using it and I wanted to create plugins and packages, and I needed to know. So I'm currently, this is one of the packages that I've created, which is called Override Audit. This is the second take on this. I learned what I know about Sublime and all of the internals of the API by just making tons and tons of plugins and packages and just trying things. Like, I want to insert some text. How do I do that? You can go look at some examples to see how other people are doing it and then implement it yourself. And sometimes there's stuff that I know that there's packages for or plugins for, but I just implement it myself anyway because I want the practice of learning these things. Exactly, completely submerge in it. And one of the things that, like going to the Sublime Text API thing, is there is this whole API documentation, right? Let's do that. There's a lot of stuff in here in this API documentation. If you wanted to be a Sublime developer and you knew Python, and you just look at this, and there is just like so much stuff in here that you immediately become daunted with all of this stuff. But that's not the right way to go about that, because nobody says that you need to have all of this stuff committed to memory day zero before you start doing anything, right? So, it's got example plugins. Look at these, see what they're doing. Just give a skim through this just to get an idea for the vaguest of what is possible. And use search to come in here and find stuff, and slowly over time. I guess that's probably good advice too, right? Don't try to run before you can walk, sort of thing. The knowledge that you want will come with time. You have to be patient and let it come. Yeah, and this is also ties into what I'm doing on Twitch right now, because I stream there a couple of days a week. One of the things we can do in OBS, for example, is stuff like this. That's something that my OBS does directly. When you stream, you also have the idea of overlays, chatbots, like we can see Nightbot right there. I want to know how that stuff works. It's not enough for me to just add Nightbot to my channel. I want to know what it's doing behind the scenes, because I'm a curious guy. So on Twitch, we're actually developing chatbots and overlays and the ability to execute commands, which may or may not work right now. The brain command may or may not actually work. I'm not entirely sure if I have the right things associated for that right now, if Ashwin happens to be here. Uh-oh. I have it set to ultra low latency, so you have to have a fairly fast connection to get everything, unless it sort of down-reses it a little bit. But do let me know if it's... I'm not sure that I can change that midstream. I don't think so. But I can investigate it. But yeah, so I'm reinventing the wheel on a lot of stuff. Will I actually keep what I've written? Maybe, maybe not. Don't be afraid to write something, get it to a state where you know that it does sort of what you want, you understand how it works, and then, work on another version of it with what you've learned, which is one of the things about Override Audit as a package. Yeah, hopefully everything is cool there. The stream health over here indicates that everything is in the red as far as this is concerned. Yeah, it every now and then that sort of thing happens. So this version of Override Audit right here is version 2. This is more or less not a complete rewrite, but a gigantic refactor, because the very first big project I created in Sublime Text as a package in Python was Override Audit, and I built up based on the information that I had at my disposal. I built things, it worked the way that I wanted to, but I learned so much in doing that I decided, you know what, if I'm going to continue developing on this, and I want to, I should probably restructure some of this with some of the knowledge that I now have. So don't be afraid to realize that learning is an ongoing, never-ending process. There's always something new to learn. Is a good thing there to keep in mind. But apart from that, I'm not sure what advice I could advise on. Perhaps you should get into Ruby and Prolog early so that you have those languages under your belt. Or perhaps Prolog isn't the sort of language you want to have to try to learn without some more practical real-life experience. I'm going to guess probably that one. But, if it's interesting to you, definitely play around with stuff. Let's say 2 of 2. Do we want to take bets on how many people are going to run into the forum based on the Hacker News getting out there? Let's check here. And also... definitely, just as an FYI, if you talk to me in the Discord and I don't respond while I'm live, that's just because I tend to gloss over the tiny red dot on that icon up there in the corner. So if you post something in the Discord that you want to bring out in the chat, you should post it there and then let me know here so that I can know to go look. Apropos of nothing. But even so, I think the Discord icon is this one right up here that's mostly hidden behind some stuff as far as the chat's concerned as well. And then spending more time looking at the chat in the Sublime window. Never actually use it for a real project. I assume that there are actual real projects that are written in it, right? Someone was mentioning in a stream I was watching yesterday that I think it was Toronto's nuclear facilities had some initiative where they wanted to try to replace the legacy control systems and software in some parts of their reactor or something. I don't think it was the reactor specifically, with something new, but the information on the existing thing and how it worked was sort of a lost art. I think it was related to being able to do calculations for neutron decay of various different radioactive things and how you could safely ship them, how big containers needed to be and stuff like that. There's some very complicated code that somebody wrote based on a physics thesis paper, and they wrote it in Fortran, and now they want to replace it with something else, but nobody really understands the existing Fortran code, and it was like tricky to find somebody that understood the thesis paper well enough to be able to replicate what it did, and they didn't want to touch it. Hacker News tends to dislike VS Code. What would they use in favor of it? Are they Sublime fans? Are they Atom fans? I don't have anything specific against Visual VS Code per se, except that I don't like Visual Studio because it seems awful bloated and complicated for stuff that I'd like to do with it. And maybe that is just a symptom of using something that's as thin and elegant as Sublime is. Thin's probably a bad thing to say there. But I remember trying to help somebody in full-on Visual Studio, and all I needed to do was set some particular compiler option thing, and it took me like 20 minutes to figure out. Oh, no, actually, it was trying to set up TFS. I always want to say TFS as Team Fortress because I played Team Fortress a lot when I was younger, but Team Foundation server, I guess it is. It's what the company uses for our source control system. And I needed to check out code, and I needed to use Visual Studio to do it. And the interface for how you set stuff up and check code out was entirely unintuitive for someone that's used to less user-friendly tools like Merge and Sublime and command line Git and stuff. It was using terms I didn't understand. It was just like a whole weird thing. I did not play Team Fortress 2 because at the time that it was in its heyday when it came out, I didn't have a computer fast enough to run it. But original Team Fortress as it existed in Quake, a ton of that. I think now I'm dating myself here, but I think there was like a mega Team Fortress, if I'm remembering correctly, because the basic Team Fortress just had the various classes like the Scout and the Heavy and the Sniper and stuff. But I think I played for a while on a modded version of it that had more functionality than that as well. Like, trying to think, unless it actually was just in regular Team Fortress, which could be true because that's a long time ago when my memory is Swiss cheese. But I have very distinct memories of that two forts map that are right across from each other with the moat and the bridge. And one of the characters had a toaster that you could throw in the water that would electrocute people that were going through the underwater tunnels. And a bunch of other stuff too, like air boosts for scouts so that you could sort of fly for a half a second or something like that. That takes me back. Oh, I used the Quake's terminal was the twiddle for that, wasn't it? I use Commander as my terminal, as I said. But one of the things I had to turn off was that it steals, I think, Alt plus backtick, which I use in Sublime for the Terminus terminal. It steals that as the global for bring Commander to the forefront, and I could not handle it. Orange box. Oh, yes. I have played Portal and Portal 2. I'm trying to think. I don't play a lot of multiplayer games, but I've been watching a friend play, what's it called? Where you grab people and throw them off, and it's like a big game show. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's coming to Fall Guys. There you go. Fall Guys is coming to Switch, and watching her play, that seems like something that I would like to see. The Quake terminal as a goal in their issue tracker. If I could tell you the number of times that I implemented my own game engines, because reinvent the wheel, all these topics connect with each other. I've often thought, if you want to make a game, you could use Unity now. Back in the day, there wasn't a Unity, and for a while there was a Unity, but you had to pay money for it. Or Game Maker, similar thing. Or Stencil, similar thing. I'm not sure if Stencil is still a thing or not. But, if you want to make a game, make your own engine for it and learn how things go behind the scenes. The number of times, based on all of the Quake that I played and all of the Team Fortress that I played, that I insisted that anything I created had to have a terminal that would slide up from the bottom to our console, rather, to allow you to interact with the engine, because that was just such an elegant concept. I got really good at it. I have not played Valorant either. You play competitive TF2? Well, in that case, I'm not going to play with you because it has been a long time. What class did you play? Or what class do you play? Most of the games that I play these days would be something that is on a Switch, and just because I can pick it up and carry it and put it to sleep and set it aside, which is not something that you can always do on a computer. And I favor puzzle games and Metroidvania type games as the two main sorts of things that I play. And puzzle games is things like Zachtronics games like Space Chem and Infinifactory and Shenzhen IO and Exapunks, the Codex of Alchemical Engineering. That's not the name of it. That's the name of the web version. I always forget, but that sort of stuff. Haven't played Overwatch. I haven't really played a massively multiplayer game since my Team Fortress days. And so every time I think of playing like on a public server with people that I don't know, I immediately think of all of the times that people on my team would block the spawn exits with sentry guns so that nobody on their team could leave the spawn room. Yeah, see, I oscillated between being a sniper and oh crap, I can't think of the name. The guy that had the pipe bombs and the MIRV grenades. What class is that? I can't think of it now. Those were the two things that I would tend to play. Occasionally a spy because it's fun to sneak around, but and occasionally soldier too for the rockets. Demo man, that's the one. Yeah, I was a big demo man guy. It sort of shows my tactics in games like this, that I want to be up on a high ledge sniping people from a distance or setting pipe bomb traps under ramps and waiting patiently for somebody to come by. Paladins? Is that a game? I'm not familiar with that one. Are you aware of a game called... I think it's called Shogun. I can't remember. I mean, I have it. I've played it. Oh, dang, that's going to bother me now. From the same people that made Desperados, which is something that's on my list of things to play. But it's a stealth type game. Overhead view, and there's guards in the levels that have, vision cones that you can see where they are, and the idea is to sneak through the level, do various things without being caught and stuff. I treat that as a puzzle game, as in how can I, without being detected, take everybody out one by one, tie them up, and leave them in a bush. Sort of that's the one. Blades of the Shogun. Yeah, I played. Keith from the Discord, I believe, gave me that as a gift, if I'm remembering correctly. He's given me a couple of cool games. That was one of them. Yeah. If you have never played it, I personally would recommend it. There's like a lot of games in that particular genre, like Commandos, and all of its initial versions, which you can get on GOG, I think. Similar sort of thing. It is a cool... That's actually the genesis for my game project that's been on hold for a while called Chrono Sneak. That has not quite that style of game, but various elements of that. But there's the same developers have something that came out recently called Desperados. That's basically Shogun, but as in the Wild West. On my list of things to play, should I ever get any free time. Yeah, Commandos 2, tricky. Commandos 3 is dang near impossible. I've never finished that one, but I've played all of the other ones multiple times. But we sort of turned ourselves into a little game stream here. Hang on a second. Go back to... Yeah, there we go. That'll do. But it is a fun thing to think of games that I could be playing if I didn't have so many projects on the whiteboard, so many videos to create and such. And now it's going to be even more exciting because Sublime 4 is going to be made publicly available sometime soon. To check the... It does not take long for... Can we create a game in Sublime? I mean, technically I did. Have I showed you the Sudoku game? StarCraft was a game that I enjoyed playing as a single player, but I didn't enjoy playing it so much in multiplayer. I didn't really have any hard and fast plans for tonight's stream. I thought we might discuss our favorite tips and tricks and packages and such, but just before the stream went live, this tweet came out, so that sort of became the theme of the night. Sublime Text 4 is going to escape into the wild sometime soon. Like, clearly we don't know exactly when yet. It's still going to be when it's ready, but the fact that it has been made public now, and as we can see here, it is currently 9 o'clock or 20 after 9 at 7:42. That happened. It has been getting around like wildfire here, so I would not be surprised. Activity is definitely going to kick up in the near time. So that is some exciting stuff as well. Although that's really going to kick up my, whoops, pardon me, if I want to do the Gigantor video on what's new in Sublime Text 4, now's the time to start working on that. But I kind of like how I've been going, adding, sort of talking about individual things. And yeah, they're dropping the 4, but I'm guessing, oh, look, it just went up. For the foreseeable future, we're going to be referring to it as Sublime Text 4 and not just Sublime Text, because as long as there's a preponderance of people using Sublime Text 3, we need to be able to disambiguate it. It seems like it might be a little bouncy between Sublime Text 3 and the new build. I'm using Slackware 14 actually to answer your question there. 14.2 plus, because I have updates applied on top of the base thing to keep me safe and sound. And the window manager that I'm using is XFCE. I have used Ubuntu briefly. In fact, Ubuntu was installed on this computer before I clobbered over it with Slackware. That's one of the things we built in one of the streams that I do on Twitch. And cool. There's only one of them here because Obot Nerd only works on Twitch. Did you need to set working during your build system when using Terminus to build? To build what? Technically, you only need the working directory to be set to something if you're doing something that requires access to some file that needs to be accessed via a relative path. For example, well, let's go back to whoops. Oh, actually, let's do this. You can actually see me typing stuff in there, perhaps. If we were to look at the Python build file, it doesn't have a working dir in it, right? But the command uses $file, which is going to be the full path to the file. So because you're specifically telling Python this exact file is the one you run, this doesn't need a working directory in it, and it'll still find the file and run it. But if you were to run a program that requires information on the current working directory, like say you're going to open a file that you expect to be in the same location as the current file, perhaps you might need a working directory. But if we were to look at the exec command here and look for, oops, we want to do that one, exec command, and scroll that down a little bit. One of the things in here, I'll use this, we don't see that. If the working directory is empty, which it is by default, come back to that thing now. Oh, I lost it. I shouldn't have done it that way. If the working directory is empty and there's an active file and it has a file name, use the directory name of it. This is something that is different between exec and terminus. Here in Sublime, the default is if the build system doesn't specify a working directory, but you build something, and there's the current tab has a file name. So for example, this would be exec.py. This is a new tab that hasn't been saved. It doesn't have a file name yet. So it wouldn't do it here, but here it would. It would set the working directory to be the location that this is in. So more or less it just always works. But if we did a browse command list and looked for terminus open and jumped to that, probably do it that way. This one works a little bit differently because it has a working directory, right? But if we jump down to here, it also has the idea of a current working directory. So if you don't specify current working directory, but there was a working directory, it becomes that. It expands variables, but the default here is to use the first folder, or failing that, your home directory. So if you're using terminus to build something and you don't specify a working directory, and the program that you're trying to execute wants to access files by a relative path, then you definitely need to specify a working directory in your build system. This is the adaptive theme that ships with Sublime Text 4 by default. That thing is being a real butt about going away after a while, isn't it? Ow. Pardon me. The other themes that come with, whoops, I always hit the wrong key there. The other themes that ship with Sublime 4 by default are a light version of the default theme and the dark version of the default theme, and then there's adaptive, and then there's auto, which isn't a theme per se, but it makes it follow your system's color scheme setting, which would make it use light or dark as appropriate. Color schemes work the same way, but I prefer adaptive because it's darker than all of those. When using Terminus, it would only use my home directory as my working directory. Yeah, I would imagine in that case you don't have a folder open in the window. Hello, Cylon. Welcome to the stream. Oh, and also Girish, welcome to the stream as well. I answered your question without saying hello. My apologies. How's things going for you guys tonight? But Hacky Sack, yeah. Did you have a folder open in the window? Because if not, then it will definitely only use your home directory, as opposed to, whoops, pardon me, boop, boop. There we go. I lost track of the tab that I was in there. There we go. That would definitely make a difference there. Sublime Text 4 will be released when it's ready, but as of this tweet that happened just a couple of hours ago, it has been publicly announced. So you would imagine that the developers probably aren't announcing that it's coming soon if it's going to be another 9 months or something. So probably on the shorter side of soon, but who can say? But of course, you could be using it right now if you wanted to. Awesome. R. That is also a language that I have not used. Something we were talking about earlier in the stream. But I have helped some people with R questions using not send code, but something similar to select, trying to replicate RStudio, some functionality of that, like hitting Control Enter to send a line to a tab, which is why I ended up with that video topic. Have a great day, Girish. Thanks for stopping by. That's a good question. I'm not sure where the mini map came from. Oh, no worries, Hacky Sack. Does it make sense now why it was going that way? Oh, thank you for the kind words, sir. Related to what came first in what editor, I'm not entirely sure on that. The first time I ever saw anything with a mini-map in it, which is, for those that don't know, boop, you want to be over in this side. this thing here, which I tend to have turned off while I'm streaming because it takes up parts of the screen. Let's go ahead and do this. Although the ability to see exactly a Greeked, I think they've referred to this as the Greeked version of code with syntax highlighting. The first time that I saw it was here. If TextMate had this, then I would guess TextMate. But apart from that, I'm not entirely sure. Similar things like that are the command palette and fuzzy matching. I'm not sure if those I think fuzzy matching and the command palette for commands originated in Sublime first, and now it appears to be everywhere. If you go to the Sublime Text forum, there's a pinned post at the top that has a link to resources, and in there is a link to the Discord. And if you click there, the announcements channel in the Discord has download links, but you have to be a licensed Sublime Text user. Because it's a development build, but you could be playing with it if you're a licensed user and you're willing to run a development build, which is potentially unstable, but in practice is pretty rock solid. You could be using it right now. You don't have to be selected. It's open to anybody that wants to do that. Yeah, fuzzy match. The first time that I saw stuff like, I kind of miss this in a fashion, but back in the early days of Sublime 3, when I was using it anyway, as a matter of fact, we can totally experiment with this. I'm going to do this. Let's see, Sublime Text tool build. Let's say 3110. Whoops. Just as an example of a thing here. Or maybe I'm lying. Maybe it was earlier that it went away. I can't remember what build I first started using Sublime in, but interesting how things have changed with this sort of stuff, right? Now I'm gonna drive myself crazy with there we go. In the go to anything panel, how this number was displayed here. That is the fuzzy score for how well your term matches things, and those always float to the top. Doesn't really serve a purpose, but I kind of miss that being there. It makes me reminiscent of the old days. Uh-oh. Ashwin saying that John said that Minimap originated in Sublime, but Ben saying that Minimaps were available before Sublime made use of them. The history of that stuff I am not so familiar with, unless it was mentioned in the Sublime Text blog, because I've read through that a couple of times. I found it very interesting. There's a lot of the early entries in there talk about why Sublime doesn't have toolbars, why panels at the bottom of the window or sidebar on the side, and not floating dialogues that constantly get in your way, and why Python as the language that he chose. Oh, well, thank you. If you try, you can succeed. I didn't do anything special. I just spent a lot of time doing stuff. But if you have the drive, you can succeed. The same could be said for anything. I know, for example, I wish I was better at guitar, and I could be if I spent as much time practicing guitar as I spend practicing doing programming stuff, such as it is. I wonder if that's what was the first editor with a minimap? Let's see what Wikipedia says. Wikipedia never lies. Oh no, it's talking about There we go. Kdevelop. Kdevelop has a mini map. Man, it's been a long time since I've used Kdevelop. That's really come a long way. This kind of reminds me of Eclipse. How many hours would I recommend? Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? As many as you can spare? More than 0 and less than 24? I would say that you probably want to be, balanced and do other stuff than studying programming. That's not the route that I took. But I guess all else being equal, the more hours you study, if you were to consider the idea that there's some number of hours that you have to work at something before you become being proficient in it, the more hours you spend during a day doing it, the shorter the time gets before you reach that point, all else being equal. But you definitely want to have balance in your life to do things other than just sitting in front of a computer doing programming stuff or reading books and programming studying. You want to, get out, see the world, play a game, watch TV, that sort of thing. Night Ashwin, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I don't really have a hard and fast number for that. I mean, clearly when now I have been a software developer since I was in grade 5. If we're referring to a software developer as somebody that sits in front of a computer and plunks on the keyboard and does something programming related, right? Then I have been doing that since I was in grade 5. And in grade 10 was when I moved from the place where I was born in the middle of Canada in Manitoba to the coast where I live now. And from then forward, it was sort of like an awkward 10th grade which is, I don't know, like if you're American, it's like a junior or a sophomore or something, a sophomore. We use different terms here in Canada for that sort of thing. Sort of a hard year to go to a whole new city and meet a whole new group of people. So I spent way more time working on computer stuff after I moved here than I did prior, because I spent a lot of time hanging out with friends and camping. I still did computer stuff, but I had a lot of other activities too. Semaphore. Yeah. So it's really hard to say. I would probably go more towards the former than the latter, unless you're super determined. But I agree with Robert there. For me personally, I learned something better by doing it. I still love reading about stuff, which gives me ideas for things that I'd like to try, but I don't fully understand how the parts fit together until I actually get in and do it. And again, like for example, on my Twitch streams, we're making a Twitch chatbot that hangs out in the chat and responds to stuff. Well, inherently, I know how that works, right? There's obviously a program that is being able to connect to the same server as we do when we type stuff, that receives the same messages so that it could see them. And if you can see a message, you can examine it to see what's inside of it. And if you can see a message, you can send a message. So conceptually, I understand how a chatbot works. But in practice, I wanted to know what actually is all involved in that. What sort of technologies would you use to talk to Twitch and have these things going and have things like this? Having this bot respond to that, again, assuming this works and it takes a little while for messages to go, to make something happen in the stream like that. I wanted to know how to do that. So even though I conceptually understand how it would work, I I'm doing it so that I can get into the nitty gritty. Indeed, the answer is always lame but true. Practice, practice, practice. If you decide that you see somebody playing guitar like a virtuoso and you want to play that way, they know how to play guitar. Eddie Van Halen knew how to play guitar as good as he did because he spent so much of his time just playing the guitar. Whether you're playing a song or just practicing holding it and practicing fingering chords, same is true for everything. Yeah, there's something to be said for exploration. Now, that said, I know that that's not how everybody learns because everybody is different. Like my wife, for example, learns new things better by having them explained to her. And once someone explains, this is how you do this thing and these are the steps that are involved, that helps her more than trying to do it and fumbling through. Not that she can't learn anything that way, but it's easier the one way than the other, having the steps outlined versus sort of trying to work them out yourself, sort of things. Everybody is different in that regard, so you do want to find what works best for you. I've been studying web dev for almost 8 years and still don't have the skills right now. I am not a super fan of web development per se, because I am not a visual person, so to speak. For example, we don't want that. Ugh, click the button. Blast shields down. This is my web page. And this looks the way that it does because I found this nice person at Third Wave Media that came up with this and did the work of saying what would look best, something that lays out this way with this font, with this information and these things. This is the sort of stuff that, let's do that so we can actually see this thing. So you can see the cool sidebar on the side. I can't make something look nice like this. I do not have the skills to, and that's just my thing. I'm more the technical, how could I write a program that will read data out of a database and generate something that looks like this? That is more my bag than how do I design this so that it will look nice? That's just the skill set that I don't have. And I find web development, to a large degree, seems to fall into this category of stuff. I guess, more front-end web development than back-end web development. So I can feel you on that one, but just, practice, I would say. When you say you don't have the skills right now, what do you mean by that, though? Because you probably do actually have the skills, but you just, what you think you should know and what you actually do know are two different things. But, what you think you should know, what you do know, what you need to know tends to fall in the middle for a lot of things. So you're probably, maybe worried about something that you don't need to be worried about. JSON API work sounds like fun, such as it is. Yeah, and that is one of the defining precepts of why I started streaming, or why I wanted to do live streams on YouTube for package development. A large part of that was making myself accountable so that I would actually work on stuff. But if you watch a YouTube video and someone's doing something like, writing a plugin command for Sublime, that they're, it most of the time, not for everybody, but for a lot of those sorts of videos, it's professionally polished in a way where someone says, first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, now we do this, and here we go. And it's possible for that to go right the first time, but there's so much trial and error and why doesn't this work in stuff that just tends to not be put in videos, which makes sense because, who wants to watch a guy, if you want to learn how to insert text in a Sublime Text plugin, you don't want to watch 30 minutes of me being like saying, what the hell did I do wrong here? You want to just see it working. But that does, scripted, edited, professionally polished. It gives you sort of a false sense of your own skills and abilities, because when you try to go do that thing, it doesn't go as smoothly for you as it did for somebody else. But that's not really the reality of that. There is always screwing up and messing around with stuff like this. So I wouldn't let that be a guide as well. I've sort of, I'm my own worst enemy in that regard. If you watch a lot of my videos, you may have noticed that since I started standing at the back there doing stuff, everything that I do is something that I'm talking about, and then you see the screen doing stuff, but I'm not interacting with the keyboard. Whereas earlier videos, I was sitting right here in this position and the laptop was right here off camera. The camera would be right there, laptop's here, and I would actually do stuff. Which, there are some flubs in there where I did stuff wrong. There is a bunch of times where I did take after take after take because I kept putting a stupid typo in the thing and I wanted it to be more smooth. Doing it while you're actually talking about it makes the whole thing slower makes the video longer as a result. So I've switched to doing it the other way now, so it's a little bit easier in that regard. Imposter syndrome is 300% a thing. Even now, I experience that watching people on Twitch that are other software developers, and they're doing stuff which I know that I could do too, but it seems more effortless for them, and that immediately makes you think, oh, I'm not as good as I could be. I must suck. That guy is like doing a thing and it's faster than me. It's a real thing that you have to struggle with. SmartBear's code historian predates Sublime and had a mini-map, though John could very well have come up with the idea independently. I've never even heard of SmartBear code historian. I'm not going to lie, for a long time, I kind of thought that TextMate and Sublime were the same thing. I think I've mentioned that before. When I went looking for editors to replace the tools that I didn't want to use anymore, I landed on Sublime's page, and I thought, oh, no, this is that thing that's macOS only. And then I looked again and went, oh, no, wait, there's totally a Linux version. And it, runs in 32-bit. Let's see. And then, I ran it for like 20 minutes, and that was like the end of that. I played around with key bindings and things. I was actually impressed by the way the key binding system worked. It seemed like such a nicer thing than the obnoxiously long key bind lists that you find in other applications, because it's so tricky to find the thing that you're interested in. I actually thought Sublime was TextMate. Though I guess I'm going to take a relative pass on that because there is so much stuff that was borrowed, like the TM language format and TM preferences and stuff, bundle content from TextMate into Sublime. Sometimes procrastination and discourage of learning through not getting up. Oh, that's not good, sir. Yeah, but don't get down on yourself. You can do it. And that imposter syndrome, definitely a thing to be aware of. Don't measure yourself by someone else's yardstick is probably a good way to say that. You be you and do the things that you want to do. Aspire to things that other people are doing, but don't let those things define who you are. History is replete with people coming up with the same thing independently of each other, like the telephone and apparently the telegraph, I learned recently. the telephone is the more obvious of those two. Uh-oh. Better put some lotion on. For myself, when I first got started with computers, I was in grade 5. We got a ColecoVision computer, a ColecoVision Atom, which is basically a ColecoVision and a Commodore 64 stuck together with a word processor built in. And it had games that you could play on tape and also a basic programming language that you could load in. And I thought the games were interesting and fun to play, and I discovered that if I put this other tape in and start it, I can do some sort of programming, but it didn't make any sense to me at all. There was this really fat book that came with it that described the language that made not a lot of sense to me at all. I could make neither heads nor tails of the whole thing, and I felt discouraged. But I have a friend whose name is Leaf. He works now for the Canadian Space Agency. He's responsible for some stuff, that mission that went off a little while ago of landing on Bennu. He did some stuff related to that. But he's the guy that got me into both electronics and computers, because I went to the library one day and he was there working on like a TRS-80, and he was programming a game, like a car just sort of driving down the screen. And he showed me that it was actually possible to do that sort of thing, and that's what kicked off my desire to want to learn this stuff. And I just slowly, played with stuff, got books, read them. For a long time I was just typing in programs by rote and running them. And then, you start to looking at taking things and splitting them apart. It takes time. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, you learn much more from a failure than you do from a success. 100%. Never be afraid of breaking a thing. Also, good advice. Yes. Yeah. You just, like I said, you just gotta be you. Practice it. Do it. Don't be concerned that someone else can do something better, because there's always somebody that can do something better than you. So by that standard, you're never going to be good enough. You just need to do what you need to do. I always had trouble getting into the word process on the Coleco Atom. Every time I would say, you might be the first person, Robert, that has ever that I've ever run into besides myself that is familiar with the ColecoVision Atom and its daisy wheel printer. I'm going to say that a part of the reason why my handwriting is so terrible to this day is that I had access to the ColecoVision Atom and its word processor at an early age and spent a lot of time typing things up that I could have been writing and thus lost practice. Though in reality, I write, my hand goes fast, tries to go as fast as my brain is trying to come up with the weird crap I'm trying to write down, and then stuff gets all messy because it can't keep up. Oops. Let's check the Discord real quick. Is that a thing you came up with yourself, Hacky Sack? Good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. That sounds like something my grandpa would have said. Maybe he actually did. Hard to say. The best way to know how to do a thing right is definitely, like I said, to do it wrong. Find all of the ways that something doesn't work, and then by process of elimination, you know what does. And, there's always so many different ways to do a thing as well. Just because you can do something different than somebody else does, it doesn't always make one necessarily better than another. some cases, qualitatively, something is a little bit better. That's actually something that I ran into earlier tonight. I was watching a new friend stream. She's new to programming, I believe. She's done a couple of things. She made a Twitch chatbot and a weather program, but she's still learning front-end and back-end development skills and going to school, I think, for that. I'm not sure. But she was watching a video that talked about the differences between a junior developer and a senior developer with relation to what their code looks like, and how a junior developer would do something like this and a more senior developer would do it like this instead. See how this is cleaner and better, and it doesn't have these obvious bugs, and it's easier to read and stuff. And it sort of struck me how everybody has their own way of thinking of that, because in one of the examples he said, look at this one. Isn't this one much easier to read and follow than this one and take less brain power? And my thought was, no, it's not. Actually, the one on the left is easier to read. It doesn't have three things all stuck together on one line, which, although they're all logically connected to each other, that's not the way that I like to read things. So there's always that, give and take in that regard. Let's go ahead and close some of this stuff up and toggle that mini map back off. Yeah. But this is going to be fun. So what do you think? Who watched Monday's video? I wanted that video to be more rapid fire than it is, but I didn't want to split it in two. But just wanting to cover all of the different, well, not even all, because I didn't talk about the menu. Some things are universal, but talking about the tab bar and how to do various things, the status bar, a little bit of, what's new in Sublime Text 4 in there. I didn't go into a ton of detail on any of those things because there are so many questions that people have about the interface in general. And you can always go back and add in more detail in another video. Would it be helpful to have a video on Sublime Text 4's new features that was in that same vein without describing what's new in any appreciable in-depth sense, but just maybe 20 seconds at most on various features? Or is it better to do more focused in videos? Is the question of the hour. I kind of like the idea of having overviews with more dialed in content. It's kind of what I've been practicing with for the last little while. I'm always experimenting on the channel with what sort of concepts people like in videos, longer versus shorter, more references to one thing versus another, visual layouts and stuff like that. Really trying to, hone and dial in this sort of stuff. Oh, let's do a little bit of this. Before I forget, any iPad experts out there, is there a way that you can tell your iPad that when you connect it to a computer with a cable, that it's okay to talk to that computer and you don't have to pop up a little box on the screen asking if it's okay to share files with it every single time? Because that's been irritating me for quite some time. I was unable to find an option, but I'm running an older version of iOS on my iPads. But it is going to be some exciting times with Sublime Text 4 coming out soon. We're going to need to create some videos on that on the channel. So if anybody has, and we did a little bit here earlier in the stream, your favorite feature of Sublime Text. For some, it is the autocomplete system. For others, it's the ability to select multiple tabs and the user interface that has. Having new languages built in, perhaps even the idea that the syntax engine has been enhanced in a way that makes those new languages possible. Me as a nerd, my favorite part by and large, is the new API that there is to play with and new extensibilities of stuff to do. Pardon me. I can barely do that with my own Android phone. Can barely do with the if it talking about something, whether or not it's safe to connect to a computer when you plug it in. I say that, of course, because as I've mentioned on previous streams, I use an iPad as a stream deck here, and in order to keep it on all the time, I have it connected to this computer over here so that it's constantly charging, and every time I do it, it asks me if it's okay for that computer to see its media, and it's always okay. You don't have to keep asking me. These computers remain trusted unless you change which computer you trust or erase your device. I'm going to guess older version of iOS then. The build system and its customizability. Is that something that's new in Sublime Text 4 or just your favorite thing about Sublime in general? Also looking for ideas for, well, not ideas per se, but tips and tricks for things that make you more productive in Sublime Text. For one might be build systems, because I did a video on that a couple of weeks ago with things like quick edit, quick select next, quick skip next, soft undo, stuff like that. Favorite in general is also good as a topic. Just while I was out walking the pooch, who is currently under the desk, apparently dreaming about chasing a whole raft of bunnies because his feet are going and his muzzle is twitching like he's growling or barking at something in his dreams. Somebody commented on the video from not yesterday but last week on the ability, the Control M that jumps you to the matching parentheses from the one that you're currently on as their go-to feature that was like a real life changer for them, I guess. I'm probably putting words in their mouth there, but the thing that you didn't realize you needed it until you started doing it, which kind of reminded me that I'm pretty sure I used to do that in VI all the time, but I can't think of what the key binding is off the top of my head. I guess I'd probably have to fire it up and hit the key to see. Apple is going to the Vista approach of security of annoying. Yeah, I mean, both of my iPads are rather old now. I think I'm stuck on like iOS 10 at this point. And my MacBook is a 2013. So I may be reaching the end of useful lifespan on that one as well. I have a weird line of red pixels right down the screen. Sometimes it's green, sometimes it's red. For a while it went away and then it came back again. I'm not entirely sure if there must be something wrong somewhere. %. Yeah, that makes sense. Like I say, there's, so much of what I do or did in VI, because I still use it for server related stuff, but I use Sublime for a lot of my text editing needs now, is stuff that I've been doing for so long that my fingers just automatically hit the keys that I need and I don't even have conscious thought of it for muscle memory. So yeah, like, it's one of those situations where if I opened it up and sat down, I would probably do it, but I can't think off the top of my head what the key is to do it without trying it first. And if I think about it, I get into that weird mental block of, am I remembering that correctly? Like can sometimes happen. We need to type your PIN number, your PIN in when you are buying something with a credit card. And if you think about it too much before you do it, you start second guessing that you actually know what it is. Next matching word under the cursor. Ooh. Earlier when I was playing with screen keys here, I opened its settings file, which weirdly is a JSON file, but it was all one long line. And I opened it in VI because I was doing it in a terminal. And without even thinking of it, I hit the key combination that I bound many moons ago to turn on word wrap, and then used incremental search to jump to exactly the part of the line that I wanted. And I had a pause for a second. Then I was like, oh, hey, cool. I still know how to use this. Cool. I have to sit at a keyboard to be able to remember my master password. I am into week 2 of having changed my password on my work system over there and remembering it every time I typed it in first time. It took a while to remember that it swaps to something else. Don't lose your master passwords. You're going to be very unhappy. You use Vintage a lot, Mike? Is it okay to develop with 22-inch monitors? Sure. I mean, I developed on a lot smaller monitors than that. I'm not sure exactly. Actually, I think that monitor behind me right there might be a 22-inch monitor. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have a ruler handy here, do I? Darn, it's only in centimeters. Let's see. Yeah, that's not going to work. But I mean, all else being equal, my desk right now currently has 3 dedicated monitors plus 3 laptops. Clearly, I've got screens out the wazootie here, but for a long time, I developed on just one monitor with multiple side-by-side windows to be able to look at stuff, or one maximized window swapping back and forth between. I don't think there's, a minimum monitor size. Whatever works for you, I would say. I normally run 2560 by 1440 on both of these monitors, but on this one that I use to stream, while I'm streaming, I set it to 1080 so that things will appear to me the same way that they appear to you. Pardon me for bumping the microphone yet again. That's just never going to stop happening. And as a result, the mouse acts very weird when I move it between one screen and another. If I'm too far down on the right-hand monitor when I move left, the mouse goes underneath the screen into an invisible area, and I have to wiggle it around to be able to see it. Do you do that? Do that thing where I would spend, hours and hours of my day on my Linux computer, like focusing on this monitor, writing code in VI with two side-by-side terminals on this monitor and 2 side-by-side on that monitor, so I could have the main file I'm working on, the secondary file I'm working on, a couple of files for reference, spend the whole day doing stuff in VI, then come over to the Windows machine to start to type mail, and every time I finish typing a sentence, I push escape and it asks me if I want to throw away the mail, and I have to be like, no, don't throw it away, I'm still typing that. I'm sorry, I've been using VI all day, my brain is in press escape mode. 9 monitors in the shot. Well, I mean, I guess technically I only have the one monitor in the shot, but yeah, that is part of the reason why I try to keep my editors separate. I don't use, I can use VI stuff. I just don't use it in Sublime. Which I'm going to be facetious and say helps me create videos for people because I'm more familiar with the key bindings as they would be known to a Sublime user than they would be known to a VI user. But yeah, the pressing escape is totally an issue if you use VI too much. Or even when you're using VI too much, you start pressing escape a couple of times in a row just to be absolutely for sure that things are in the state that you expect them to be in before you proceed. Or the converse of that is spending a lot of time not in VI and then you jump into VI or Vim or something similar and you start typing into a file and nothing happens until the first word you type that has an I in it, so you end up missing part of a statement. Or worse, you may accidentally replace a word with something else and continue from there. Have you ever tried Neo Vintagious? as a package, because I hear that is one of the better, or definitely a more maintained version of a VI package. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I've only ever briefly played with vintage mode. Most of the questions related to vintage mode or having vintage enabled resolve around people being weirded out by how nothing seems to work right, or there's weird text in the status bar, and it always comes back to they deleted things they installed out of ignored, or that they ignored out of ignored packages, and they accidentally deleted vintage too because they didn't know that that was in there by default, and now vintage is enabled and they don't know how to stop using it. How frequently, as a VI user, do you type :WQ into at the bottom of an email before, as you're trying to send it? And a corollary to that is, how many times do you have to do it before you start pretending that it's your email signature because you end up doing it so often? Is probably another thing to think about in that particular vein. Let's quit this up. I've seen all of these situations with using VI. As I've mentioned in the past, Emacs, the thing that I can do with Emacs is get out of Emacs. Yeah, I would check that out. If you like vintage, I would definitely check out Neo Vintages. I've never used it myself, but I do know that the developer strives very much so to really, turn Sublime into VI. So that I think it even has like help built in and such. So you may feel right at home. There was another 6, I think, but I think that was made by the same person, Guillermo, that worked on the unofficial documentation for Sublime with Fictfall, and a couple of other packages, and he's sort of been AWOL for probably about a year now. Nobody knows what happened to him, so I'm not sure if that's still actively developed or not. Here, I may just have changed your Sublime Text life by telling you about a package that makes Sublime behave more like another editor. That's cool. Nope. That's Color Scheme Legacy is the package that those are in. But I assume you're familiar enough to get around with VI in general, Hacky Sack. Maybe it's worth doing a video on vintage mode or Neo Vintages at some point. Add that to the list of things. That's not something that I see a lot of questions about, which makes me wonder. I would imagine that if that package is obviously quite popular, most people don't ask about it. There may be some sort of bias that anybody that would end up using it mostly is aware enough of VI and how it works that they don't need help working with it, and they could find it more often than not. But yeah, when I say VI, I pretty much mostly mean Vim. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that I could get around quite handily in VI in general. I might be unhappy that there's some magic thing I do that's only available in one and not the other, but on the whole, where things really go off the rails is when Vile or Elvis is set up as the default link to VI instead of Vim. The Dracula color scheme, is that the one created by a faceless user? When I used IntelliJ tools, I used their Darkula scheme, which it always struck me as weird that they spelled it the way that they did. Is that a nice dark? Is Dracula sort of a vaguely purplish theme in the colors that it chooses? I know when I first started using Sublime, I spent a while casting around for themes to make it look different, or color schemes that were different from the one that it defaulted to see what I liked best. And in the end, I ended up using the just default Monokai color scheme and the adaptive theme. Initially the default theme, because that's the default. But as soon as the adaptive theme became available, I switched to that, because the way that the console and the sidebar were white in the default theme way back when everything else was a darker color, I always found kind of off-putting, but never enough to actually try to modify the theme to make it look different. But I found this obscure color scheme called Dark Theme, a lovely blue and purple. Pardon me, it is getting kind of late. We should probably call the stream here. I've had a fun time chatting and hanging out with people. Like I said, I kind of had vague plans for what we might talk about, but I just really wanted to just chat about Sublime 4 now that that tweet came out. That it's like so exciting. This being like public, because I've been seeing so many people lately complaining about how Sublime is dead because they're not making any public features or public releases, which is, yeah, I mean, I don't think the world of text editing changes so rapidly that if there was a period of 1 year between one build of something and the next, that we need to be concerned that it's no longer usable or viable as a product or what have you. I tend to think of people as alarmists in a situation like that, but to each their own, I guess, right? But hopefully this is going to make people a lot more interested in stuff. 1 p.m. for you, 10 p.m. for me. I think you're in the... It must be tomorrow for you too, huh? I'm pretty sure that's how time zones work. I seem to have situated myself in a way where a lot of the people that I watch on... yeah, I know you're on the East Coast. Everybody on the East Coast is 3 hours ahead of me. I notice that a lot of the people that I know on Twitch tend to be European, so when I'm streaming, it's 3 o'clock in the morning for them, and when they're streaming, it's like the start of my workday here. It's like a whole weird global thing. Oh, you're in Ohio? I thought you were... For some reason, I thought you were Canadian, Hacky Sack. I don't know why. Maybe that's just a bias I have because I met five developers on Twitch in the last 3 days that it turns out are all Canadian and all from the East Coast. We had a little bit of a West Coast, Best Coast, East Coast, Least Coast kind of operation going on, which you may have seen in one of the streams. Do I say a lot? I actually know a few people from Ohio from my IRC days. I can't remember exactly where, but so I think, yeah, let's say, I think we should wrap up the stream here. Thanks so much for everybody for chiming in. Remember, suggestions for videos always welcome here or in the Discord. I'm not sure if I set this up. I'm gonna try this and see. I can't remember how much of the bot I may have propagated between Twitch and here. I have to set both of them up distinctly, and that's kind of irritating. So I may not have updated that. Oh, I did. Cool. That is a Discord that's specific to me and what I do here on YouTube with videos, with these live streams. And there's also channels for stuff that I do on Twitch. If you're watching this and you like what you see, you can go into the Discord and you click the button to be pinged when I'm live in either of those situations. But more importantly, do you have questions about videos that I'm doing? Do you have suggestions for topics you'd like me to cover in a video? I'm always looking for, like I said, tips for things you do in Sublime that make your editing life nicer. Let me know about those tips. I'd like to gather those up into a community power tips, much like the last couple of videos that have been on the channel. Because a lot of my content is driven by questions that people ask or things that I commonly see people say or things that people ask me directly. Sublime Text is black. Hello, Giuliani Betancourt. Indeed, Sublime Text is back. Actually, one might say it never actually left. I mean, just to say this, I'm going to bop this for just a second. Here it is, Sublime Text 4. We've been using it on the stream for quite some time, and a lot of the videos on the channel as well. Of course, if you're watching this, chances are good you probably already know that. But the big news is that it was Sublime HQ tweeted out Vimeo of some of the things that they've been working on and made that public, which is the first time that that's happened since November. It was 2019, because it was all of 2020 that Sublime Text 4 has been in discrete beta in the Discord. Indeed. So it has been rolling ever onward. Rumors of its demise have been greatly exaggerated, and coming soon now, it's going to be live for everybody to play with, and not just people that are in the Sublime Text Discord. So some exciting times are ahead. And again, if you happen to be watching this and you haven't participated in the chat at all, thanks so much for your support. You feel free to, I've been talking to some people that say that they watch the streams, but they don't want to participate because they don't necessarily understand what's going on when people ask questions. I just love to chat with people. So, feel free. But if you happen to be one of those people and you don't follow me on YouTube, you might want to hit the button, because Sublime Text is stuff it's the only thing that I talk about on this channel. But yeah, Sublime is coming soon. Sublime Text 4. I've done some videos on some of the features in that. In fact, the last few videos on the channel I've done in Sublime Text 4, even though what I'm talking about is the same for all of them. Although I've been dropping little tips and hints and sneak peeks into things that are available in Sublime Text 4. More of that is coming your way in videos upcoming. But for now, we're going to call the stream. If you'd like to see some more chatting with me, asking questions, and doing some actual development work, perhaps, I do stream on Twitch as well. So you can catch me there. And I'm going to do this because it's part of my ongoing New Year's resolution to try to promote what I do a little bit more, because I've spent the last couple of years not really promoting myself at all, and that doesn't seem right. I should be proud of what I'm doing, right? So with that, thanks everybody for showing up. Remember, you can join the Discord, join the Twitch chat. I love to talk to you guys, answer your questions about Sublime or development, or even give advice where and when I can. Have a super lemon day and a super apple day as well, and a hyper peach day. Most importantly, have a sublime day, or a sublime night, or a sublime afternoon, depending on your geographic location. For me, it's 10:23 It's time to finish drinking this coffee and then let my eyebrows and my eyelids slowly collapse over me as I fall into a peaceful slumber, because I've been staying awake quite a lot lately. Have a sublime night, everybody. Thanks for joining. I really got to find a better button for this. Yes, I do. Is it endearing that this is always awkward? Probably. Bye.